We've broken down the cinematic for the World Soul Saga, and now Bellular has done the same. Let's see what Bell has to say about what the hidden meanings are in the cinematic that we saw.
What's going on? What does it all mean? That's what some people are feeling, right? WoW's story has been kind of choppy. Loads of us have dipped in and out over the years. You've missed vital info. So here is everything you need to know about the cinematic Blizzard are using to kick off the World Soul Saga, WoW's trio of upcoming expansions. In today's video, this is made possible by our awesome members at bellular.coast.io. Anduin, boy, he has had a really rough time. Here we basically see a man whose faith is really broken. You might be wondering why, okay? So, let's be real. The story that got us here through BFA and Shadowlands is kind of rough. And in a way, I think Anduin is a little bit meta in this cinematic. He maybe represents a lot of people's faith, not in the light, but honestly, in Warcraft in the future.
Not Azeroth.
But also for a lot of people, they didn't really know how he got to this stage. So let's do it.
That's not Azeroth.
Anduin's father died. He's then thrust into leadership right when the stakes are absurdly high. He then moves from the Legion invasion straight into an arms race that turned into a global war, one where his side took tremendous losses, often resulting from his own orders. Because as king, if you think about this at an actual scale, yes, he ordered thousands of people to their end. It's also a time where
you know what? Say what you want about BFA. These cinematics were unreal. These were really good. Some of the best storytelling in WoW was done through BFA. That was a good time watching these things.
He ordered thousands of people to their end. It's also a time where key subordinate leaders like Tyrande flat out betray him. Anduin says, Tyrande, do not go to Darkshore. We need to do other things. She just goes, does the whole Darkshore.
Do we free Azeroth in the Last Titan? It's a good question, and I'm still not sure that Azeroth even is the Last Titan. It might be Sargeras. I'm not sure what Azeroth is yet. She's obviously this ultra-powerful being, and that whole orb that we saw earlier that I said not Azeroth, that's a prison wall. That's a prison wall. It looks like the same as the prisons that were used to keep the proto-dragons or whatever the fuck they're called. You know, Eridikron and his brother and sister in their balls, right? Viranath, Farak, and Eridikron were kept in those balls. It's the same ball that we saw in those cinematics that's holding Azeroth back right now. So will she be released in The Last Titan? Maybe she'll be released at the end of Midnight. And then The Last Titan is like, what happens after that? We'll find out.
Warfront, right? And this is something where obviously it would be hard on anyone. As we go into the books, though, we do see in the book portrayal where, of course,
the next power, the systems were bad in BFA.
Yeah, the pressure really is.
Let's not forget, Blizzard confirmed that they took inspiration from Disney with their whole World Soul Saga when it comes to Marvel, and we didn't have to wait until Endgame for Thanos to get all the stones and put them in his gauntlet and do his thing, right? That happened in the middle. So I feel like that's what Midnight is going to be. I feel like we're going to have, like, in the Midnight expansion, we're going to have a maybe release of Azeroth. Something huge happens and we fail. We're losing. By the end of the Midnight expansion, I think we're going to be losing. And then in The Last Titan is our final comeback moment. Avengers assemble. Okay, everyone gets together and we defeat the foe. That's what's probably going to happen.
On him. Okay, next then, this is N'Zoth. Right as the war concluded, sheer madness engulfed the world. Now then, N'Zoth dies. So, it's time to breathe. But of course, not.
Corruption Gear was fun at the end.
Obviously, by the end of the maw, he is left behind after we make an escape. He's then tortured a lot. And by the way, Zovaal tortured, that is like hardcore Terran Empire, Mirror Universe, Star Trek, really hard stuff. Eventually, then, Anduin would be dominated. So the question is, what's it like being dominated? Now, I did reach out to my boy Taliesin for some comment here. Wasn't able to get an answer back, so at least for now, I'll do the official lore. Okay, two things are basically happening with Anduin. Number one, domination magic itself that is inscribed on the runes, that are like in the armor. That gives the jailer very direct control over his body. Now, the deal here is, imagine this. If you're like me, you've experienced sleep paralysis. Maybe you've seen some shadow people or demons while you've had it. It's not particularly nice. But you know, sleep paralysis...
Did he just admit to having sleep paralysis and seeing demons? Did he just slip that into this video and think we weren't going to hear it? What the hell? Does Bellular need help? What's going on? Yeah, he did. What the fuck's going on?
That feeling of being trapped inside your body, unable to take control. It's like that for Anduin, but it's way worse. Because, he's committing vast atrocities. The
Right.
other thing, though, that kind of makes it even worse in a way is that Arthas' soul is inside Kingsmorn, and that is the thing that absolutely allowed the domination magic to be going on overdrive. Now, many people say,
True.
why is Anduin traumatized? He was mind-controlled. That's the thing. He wasn't mind-controlled. Of course, in many mind-control stories, it's maybe like sleepwalking. A character, you know, they snap out of it, they wake up, whatever, and they're like, oh, what happened? They're entirely unaware of what went on when they were, say, sleepwalking or when they were
Right.
mind-controlled. For this, no. It's made very clear. Anduin was in there watching everything.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
a way, his body was doing everything in a way where he could feel it quite...
He even admits that he somewhat enjoyed it. Like, I don't think he enjoyed killing anyone or doing anything bad, but he enjoyed the power that he had. Like anyone, man. Who doesn't want to be a big dick swinging?
physically. So Anduin was in there. He wasn't mind-controlled. His will
He
was
also got to experience what it's like to be a Death Knight, you know, like myself. Any Death Knight main, of course, is going to enjoy it.
dominated. When he says, the things I've seen, the things I've done, he does mean that quite literally. And later on, in a conversation with Sylvanas, he mentions the sheer feeling of exhilaration and power that went through his body. It's
yeah.
like, even though he hated it,
He liked
his
it.
body still felt like, oh boy,
Yeah.
and
It's
really
fucking
powerful,
badass, yeah.
as he was all hopped up on that crazy
It's a burden
stuff.
to be a DK.
And basically,
But
through
great.
coming to terms with that, Anduin is as we find him now. This is the Shadowlands epilogue. This is something that many of you will not have seen, but it does actually spell things out fairly clearly.
Why are you here, Anduin? Your kingdom and your friends are awaiting your return.
My friends. The ones I almost killed. They believe my hands are clean. But they don't feel clean.
It is perilous to confuse what you are made to do with what you choose to do.
How can I not when it all blurs together? It was so horrific and exhilarating.
See,
And
like,
it sickens me to think that satisfaction may have been mine.
that's right.
So that's why you've come. You fear you might not be who you thought you were.
Sylvanas is still hot.
I'm starting to wonder if I ever knew.
Okay, so by the time of this big new cinematic, 3 years have passed since the Jailer's End. So for those years, Anduin Rin simply wandered about the place. Basically, he spent time
Right.
with
He equipped his
wounds
new cloak
that
and he just
refused
walked around.
to heal. He was disconnected from the light that used to burn with his deep sense of justice, his sense of what was right. But the thing is, his sense of right and wrong is like a little bit topsy-turvy because for him, his like, my body enjoyed doing this horrible stuff. It enjoyed the raw power, even though it was deeply wrong and I hate it. So
Right.
basically, Anduin not being able to use the light, not really wanting to call on it, that means that he no longer sees himself as just. He doesn't see himself as the guy he used to be. And you have to remember how the light works in the mechanics of Warcraft, right, guys? The light, that is basically responding to your faith, your raw faith in the
True.
cause.
Yeah, the light does not come out from within. You know what I'm saying? Like, when people use the light in WoW, lore-wise, it's not something that's not a power that you're releasing from your inner self. It's a power you're calling upon, which is actually pretty badass. I'm not going to lie. You're calling upon the light, and then the light is blessing you with its presence, in essence, and doing its thing. When you heal others, that's what you're doing, too, is you're calling the light down on that person. You're summoning the light. Now, the light could answer or not answer. Evidently, now it's not answering him. The elements have also played a role like that. You know, Thrall has talked about the elements not... He can't speak to the elements anymore when he did his whole bullshit with Garrosh and, you know, cheated in the Mak'gora. Those things have happened, too. So the elements and the light kind of play a similar role in that way. Whereas, like, arcane and stuff is more just like a power that can be controlled, right? It's mages learn how to control arcane energies and use it. They're not summoning it or calling upon it. It doesn't have its own kind of intellect behind it, where the light kind of does. And evidently, same with the elements.
Now, very often that's a thing for good, but there's a reason why I say the Scarlet Crusade can use the light for ill. So Anduin here, he's not being punished by a higher being. It's not like, you know, it's not like there's a god involved in light and God's like, you have been naughty, you ain't getting that power. It ain't that. This is purely him essentially punishing himself. It is a feeling of disconnect that is all too familiar to Thrall, who, of
Right.
course, is our next big hero in this cinematic. Now, I want to take just a quick little minute to talk about how things are changing here. So, TLDR, we've launched our own new platform. The link's down below. There you'll find loads of written content from across BlizzCon, loads of just in-depth lore
Yeah, yeah.
articles, 30 hours of
have their
podcasts.
own
That's where we
shit
post
now?
our videos
Wow.
early as soon as they're made, as well as bonus content. There's also our members lounge, where it's been awesome to see all of our members hanging out. We can talk about what we're working
hell?
on, talk about content. It's the heart of what we do. It is the core to my long-term plan to move us away
playing Rocket
from
League?
sponsors, so we can always make the content that we want to make and that you want to watch free from algorithms. That's the long-term vision. Your support's been incredible. Hit up bellular.ghost.io.
Do it.
We'll have a proper URL soon. Anyway, thanks everybody. Let's roll and talk about the War Chief. Okay, Thrall.
Thrall's
To
got
talk
some
about
gray in his
Thrall,
beard now.
we need to talk about Garrosh. Garrosh, all that he could be. The big truth of this cinematic, something many people will have missed, is that Thrall has actually went through a rather similar story
Yeah.
to what Anduin's went to.
He has.
Thrall is one of the people who truly can empathize and understand Anduin here. I suppose much like, say, with Varrock Sarfang as well. For Thrall, it all goes back to Garrosh, right? Garrosh, all that he
Yeah.
could be, and to Thrall's mind, all that he did fell upon Thrall. Now, did Thrall literally make Garrosh bad? No. But
No.
Thrall did take him from Draenor.
Yeah, like, I mean, I say that all the time, man. Garrosh was Thrall's failure. No doubt. Garrosh was not fucked up. Remember, he found him in the middle of Draenor, in the peaceful lands of Nagran, just doing his thing. Thrall found him there, took him under his wing, and then fucking abandoned him, like, mid-training. Mid-Obi-Wan training, he just freaking abandons him, leaving him with all this power, all these issues, because the Horde was by no means perfect at that time, and told him, here, fix it, bro, I gotta go do my thing. What did you expect him to do? He did what he could do. He did what he knew how to do, and that was fight his way to the top. And he got his Iron Horde together and everything else. Garrosh did nothing wrong, man. Nothing wrong.
Build him up, give him responsibility. Then in Wrath,
I will
Garrosh was
say, the one thing that pissed me off when Garrosh did was his attack on the Taurens. Right? I don't understand why he fucked with the Taurens so much, and he shouldn't have. The Taurens are good people.
getting a bit extra. Thrall failed to rein him in, then Thrall made him War Chief, and then Thrall was basically too busy being, as we called him, Green Jesus, as WoW calls him, the World Shaman, to deal with the militarism that was really happening with Garrosh's horde. He was not there to give Garrosh counsel and to steer him away from the worst parts of his character, the weaknesses in his character that led him to the sorts of mistakes that, of course, his father made. Because to Thrall, this all deeply echoes from his father, Grommash, who, of course, made all those terrible, terrible mistakes, and does make a very large mistake towards the end, but finally does make up for it in that pretty damn incredible Warcraft 3 cinematic that we all remember. And, of course, Thrall challenged Garrosh to Mak-Garah, right? It's supposed to be this honorable duel, you know, where just two people, their weapons, you know, fair fight. And ultimately, what happens when Thrall basically targets Garrosh, hits a few keybinds, and destroys him using the very elements of the world itself. Question to yourself, in a 1 versus 1 battle that is supposed to be all, you know, oh, mano el mano, is it fair for one guy to have an axe or whatever, and the other guy to go, bam, the universe has killed you? Because make no mistake,
it's cheating.
Thrall made the decision to kill Garrosh there.
He did.
And ultimately, this is something that Thrall felt awful about. He felt terrible, racked with guilt. He set Garrosh on a path, and he only stepped in a Siege of Orgrimmar when it was far too late to steer him away from the dark path. Instead, he was spending time with Agra and Durak, his mate and son. So yeah, Thrall feels he screwed up, and he killed him.
Well,
and by the time
it's not a feeling. He did screw up. He screwed up pretty bad. Yeah, what's up, AJ? And his solution to Garrosh's problems, instead of dealing with the problems, he fried him with lightning. So he made some mistakes, to say the least.
Happens. He describes Doomhammer, one of the most legendary weapons, to be a dead weight in his hand. He believes that the elements no longer heed his call. In reality, much like with Anduin himself now, Thrall was struggling with himself. He did not believe in himself, and because of that, the elements were just not something that he was able to call. Right. Now, while Thrall no doubt feels bad, he has since came to understand Garrosh's agency in his own path. Along the way, many people stood against Garrosh, appealing to his honorable heritage. Even Anduin did this, and when he did this in Mists of Pandaria with the Divine Bell story, Anduin almost died for it. So, through this then, I think we can see the very clear respect and
Pandaria, Anduin
understanding
was
a
silly.
character like Thrall will have really for Anduin, because Anduin is in the deepest pit of somewhere that Thrall himself, too, once was.
Right.
Anduin's response then, look, that is straight up post-traumatic stress. Now, I'm not an expert in that. I imagine most of you aren't either, but this does gel with my personal
Boise.
observation from listening to veterans speak about their experience whenever, you know, something just sets it off and they are right back in the worst place that they've been, and their body just, the body takes over, right? That's what we see.
If everyone's complaining about Anduin crying, like I said, I even saw, I saw this argument about Anduin crying, because I was saying in a previous YouTube video, I was like, Anduin's had a fucked up life, okay? From the time he was little, his mom was killed by the Defias Brotherhood, right, in a giant riot that he had nothing to do with. He's a little kid. His mom dies. Then his dad, I think Anduin was probably like 5 years old at this time. His dad disappears, gets lost on a ship in the middle of the ocean, and fights as a gladiator on the Horde for years while Anduin's a boy king kid. During his time as a boy king, you know, he stood there not realizing that one of the people he trusted most was a fucking corrupted dragon. She was Anixia was standing right next to him the entire... Imagine the issues that a child would have after their mom dies, their dad disappears, and one of their most trusted allies turned out to be a dragon. You put any other kid through that in real life, they're going to be fucked up. Besides that, he grows up, he does his thing, you know, he's still kind of being a bitch. His dad comes back, and by being a bitch, I mean, like, he's having his moments in the Mists of Pandaria. His dad comes back and all that. His dad's trying to teach him things, and guess what? His dad dies. His dad dies at a moment probably where he's in his adolescence, and he's supposed to be learning everything he can from his dad because, mind you, he hasn't seen his dad in years. Now his dad's dead, okay? So now he has to take up the mantle. What's he taking up the mantle during? One of the worst wars in the World of Warcraft history. Okay, bloody-ass war with the Horde. Now he's king. He has to deal with that shit on top of it all. Finally gets through the war, gets corrupted. Captured and corrupted by the shittiest end boss in the entire game, the Jailer. I mean, imagine, we hated the Jailer, and all we had to do was kill him. Imagine having to just stand there, looking at the Jailer's big nipples for an entire expansion, hearing about how he's gonna fucking rule the world, and yet he never reveals his plan, because he never had a plan, because Blizzard never wrote it right. So now Anduin had to deal with that for an entire expansion. He's been corrupted, and people argue, oh, but Arthas dealt with the fucking sound of Ner'zhul in his head for all those years and never cried, never bitched, never moaned, and dealt with it. Arthas had a very good childhood, okay? Arthas had an amazing childhood. There's plenty of stories written about Arthas' childhood being a cake-eating king, you know, and I love Arthas. He's my favorite character in the game, but I'm not going to tell you that his childhood and Anduin's childhood match up at all. They don't. Okay, Arthas' childhood was very good, very posh. In fact, him and Varian, who is Anduin's dad, used to duel in the courtyards in Lordaeron. And Arthas lost a lot of times, believe it or not, to Varian. Varian was a much better duelist than him, even though Arthas was older than him. Not only that, Arthas got his booty, his side piece, Jaina, who he got to fondle and have all his good times with. Anduin's probably still a virgin. He's never even had 5 minutes to fuck around. So the two lives are completely different. There were no challenges presented to Arthas until the Scourge, right? So Anduin's life and Arthas' life are very different. Arthas had a time and a place to grow up and to become a strong man, you know, to deal with the shit that he had to deal with later on. Anduin never did. He never had that guidance, never had anything. He just got fucked from day one. Now, do I want to see him grow up and strengthen up? Yeah, I do. I want to see that in the World Soul Saga. I want to see him stop crying. I want to see him man up. I hope those things happen. But to call him a bitch for everything he's been through, come on, man, have some empathy.
I think so incredibly portrayed by the just. Honestly, like on a technical level, god tier animation here. Of course, Thrall is right. You know, time does not heal. Separation from the events can help, but What
Cadence, I don't know
Anduin
what you're
needs
talking about
is
happened to
the
you, but that's,
acceptance and the
if anything like you
understanding of
and
his
happened to
allies,
Anduin happened
not
to you,
the
it's sad.
self-imposed solitude that will only serve to isolate his pain from others and make sure it never is actually dealt with. And this is where you can see how really much in common these two heroes have. And ultimately, it is the disarming words of, "I trust you," that leave Anduin in a place where he, he almost can't do anything but open up and be willing to move forward with how the scene plays. I think it's an amazing moment. It's obviously a different speed to the Warlords of Draenor cinematic, which I think is probably the coolest one. For me, though,
WoW
this
is a
is
great cinematic.
right up there with like, oh, I care about this world, and this has hit me. But to talk about the next journey, I
Sorry
think
to
we
hear
need to
that,
talk
Cadence.
about that sword and why, in these little Oppenheimer-like cuts, we see Azeroth.
Oh, no, we don't.
Azeroth.
No, we don't.
The soul at the heart of our world.
I'm gonna debunk
what
this right
had
now.
been speculation for a long time was confirmed with Legion and Chronicle Volume 1, which specifically state that Azeroth is a nascent Titan world soul, very much
Sure.
far from her full form. Sargeras obviously developed a twisted infatuation with her since before the War of the Ancients. He tried to claim his prize, he was denied it, and very much then seemed to want to destroy her.
Destroy
of course, from his
her?
perspective,
Or free her. Destroy her or free her. I'm telling you guys, the picture of Azeroth here. Hold on. Let me see if I can... let me see if I get a better, brighter picture. Does he have a better, brighter picture? No? Okay. Well, this is the Wall of Azeroth, right? That we see in the cinematic. Looks familiar, doesn't it? You know what that is? That's the shell that's holding Galakron, or Eridikron, before we break him out. Before we break him free. Shown it to you before. I'll show it to you again. This is the shell. This is the prison holding Eridikron. This is the representation of Azeroth in the cinematic. Just saying, they look very similar. I think she's imprisoned. She's imprisoned, and the way these prisons work, the way we saw it in the cinematic, is they kind of have these rotating rings, right? That are doing their thing. I wonder what would happen if you took a giant sword and jammed it into these rotating rings. Probably would break the prison, right? Probably would break the prison open, wouldn't it? That's not Azeroth. That's the outer wall of her prison. And maybe Sargeras was trying to free her. Maybe Sargeras, in all of his fucked up ways, was trying to do the right thing.
Azeroth, the
Just
soul
saying.
at the heart of our world. What had
Maybe
been
Sargeras will be the last Titan.
speculation for a long time was
Objection,
confirmed
pure
with
speculation.
Legion and Chronicle Volume 1, which specifically state that Azeroth is a nascent Titan world soul, very much far from her full form. Sargeras obviously developed a twisted infatuation with her since before the War of the Ancients. He tried to claim his prize, he was denied it,
Right.
and very much then seemed to want to destroy her. Of course, from his perspective, it was safer
Look,
to
he
destroy
has his
Azeroth
moment.
than to let her be claimed by...
I don't think so. I just don't think so. His move right now, we've seen him destroy planets. Literally seen images of Sargeras chopping planets in half. Sargeras kills a planet. These things have happened. All right, he's done it. There's literal images in the books that show Sargeras just fucking chopping a planet in half. That's him chopping a planet in half. Okay, literally Sargeras is what he wasn't trying to do that by using just the tip here. He's using the tip. Okay, we've seen this happen before many times in life and things. He's using just the tip. He's not going for a slash method. He's going for a penetration method. I think he was trying to stop to break the prison open. I don't think he was trying to kill Azeroth.
His enemies. All of this, of course, led to chaos across the world whenever Sargeras did that.
And he
stab.
probably didn't
We had
complete his
Magni
goal.
and the wounds. And while, of course, the Fourth War raged,
he wasn't going for a cleave. He was going for a penetration. Two different moves. I think he had time to go for the cleave if he wanted to, but that's not what he was trying to do.
Of course, the real battle for Azeroth happened. N'Zoth, of course, went full white woman's Instagram and tried to manifest Nyloth
woman's
into reality, only to be destroyed by us with the Heart of Azeroth and creative use
Captain
of
Planet.
Titan mechanics. However, main a priest like I did, and beyond being a Zala-pilled individual, you will know that if you type in the words Seeker when your character is in void form, it turns out the Shath Yar.
Yeah, I always said this was Captain Planet. This was a Captain Planet moment. By your powers combined, we are Captain Planet. You know, I am Captain Planet. I felt like this was a Captain Planet moment where we used the powers of Azeroth to create a beam of friendship to kill N'Zoth. I still think N'Zoth's alive, but yeah.
Seeker is N'Zoth, which is rather ominous. Now in Dragonflight, via mechanics I explained in a video from ages ago, we basically confirm to N'Zoth what timeline would come to pass of all the timelines he could see. That will allow N'Zoth to make plans that take into account the failure of his gambit in Ny'alotha.
Yep.
And remember what happened before Ny'alotha? He cut a deal with Xal'atath, the deal that saw her leave the dagger and be her own free agent. Yes. Obviously, she seems to be heavily involved in the war within. By the end of Battle for Azeroth, then, Magni describes the world as being free.
What did we find out when N'Zoth did this? He took the dagger. He freed her from the dagger. What did we find out with the whole Xalatesh thing? Is that a piece of an old god or an old god itself, if she is an old, whatever she is, can be stored in something, right? To me, the dagger was like a Horcrux. Yeah, if you know Harry Potter, then you know what I'm talking about. Xalatesh was in there, right? And that kept her alive. Now she's out. But what did she do in return? She left the dagger, which we used to kill N'Zoth supposedly, but I don't think so. And she left us. What did N'Zoth do to us? He gave us his gift. He bestowed upon us a gift, supposedly, a piece of himself. What does that mean he did in that moment? He turned us into his Horcrux. That's what I think. And I think we're all carrying around pieces of N'Zoth. Now, some people could cleanse it, some didn't. Some still have the gift of N'Zoth. I think we're all running around with pieces of N'Zoth right now. And he's waiting for his time to reassemble, to come back together and do his thing. He could also be inside the dagger. Yes, this is true. It was used to stab his outer shell. And the whole thing happened where, he's being absorbed and he's fucking going crazy and everything. He could also be in the dagger. I just think that N'Zoth, well, I don't think, we know that N'Zoth knew we were coming and he knew he was going to lose, and he set up a plan to survive in the shadows, waiting for the moment where his great plan could be set into motion. He's alive, guys. He's alive.
To be heavily involved in the war within. By the end of Battle for Azeroth, then, Magni describes the world as being free from old god corruption. Is he right? I would say probably not. Of course, Void operatives do seem to be active, as evidenced by the shadow-scrawled coin that was mysteriously slipped into our adventure journal at the start of Dragonflight. Moving on, then, Shadowlands does reinforce some things we already know. Azeroth is, in fact, so powerful that our boy, Nipal, the Chuckler, he who got the sigils, the pitier of mortals, had her at the absolute core of his plan, which, in case you acid-washed Zoval's plan from your brain, don't worry, I almost did too, his plan was to spread his domination magic through the Zarets of every plane of existence, right? And to then just be like, I control reality, and then rewrite reality to basically have it be that everyone serves him and he's the top boss. Very deep, emotionally driven storytelling. But the key point there is that Azeroth canonically is so powerful that, fueled by her energy, he could basically reboot and remake the universe. Now, obviously, the Titans, who we have broadly thought to be our mates, they see her as a source of ultimate power, such that securing her would usher in their victory. We know that Void wants to do the same because if they claim Azeroth, they'll have the power to bring in the Void Lords. If you notice a pattern here, it is that she is so powerful that she is basically the key.
That's the image. That's the image that I was looking for when I was trying to show you guys the two orbs. It's the same fucking thing. It's the same thing that shows up for Iridikron's wall, the wall of Iridikron's prison. Same
key
shit.
Of every bad guy's plan.
Not Azeroth.
So,
just
why
the wall
is she
of her
calling
prison.
out? This is where it gets interesting. Anduin, hear me. It's not a lot to go off, but it's notable. We have never seen Azeroth communicate like this. You might think, what about Magni? No, it ain't like that for Magni. With Magni, it's not verbal, right? We have been told that Magni doesn't actually have Azeroth say, this is what I want, this is what's going on. It is emotions, it's feelings. That's what Magni gets. Her actually speaking is wholly new. This perhaps will indicate a new level of consciousness that after being in slumber for all of this time, Azeroth, in a way, is actually waking up. Now, that might not be all. In patch 10.2, we deal with Furak. However, 10.2.5 and 10.2.7 will continue the story as it leads to the War Within. Something
Yes.
could happen there. Now, last we heard, Iridikron wants to pry Azeroth from the Titan's grasp. To do that, he is working with Xaladath, who will be seemingly our antagonist in the next expansion. So basically, whatever happens from patch 10.2 to 10.2.7 to the...
I've looked at this image so many times and tried to like figure out if there's anything showing in here, and I can't figure it out. Those are the eyes of Iridikron, you know, just reflecting off of it. I don't think there's any meaning behind here that I've tried to gather. Maybe that's a dragon. Maybe there's an outline of a dragon here. Do you guys see that? The eye, the horn. Here's the mouth. I don't know. But I mean, obviously it could be a dragon just because this is supposedly the essence of Galakron, right? So I mean, that makes sense. It would look like a dragon. Okay. Yeah.
From patch 10.2 to 10.2.7 to the
Interesting spot for
pre-patch
me to
event of
pause
our
it.
next expansion will actually
But
have
that doesn't
Azeroth become
reveal anything
conscious,
that we don't already
which is
know.
insane. She seemingly becomes conscious. She then starts drawing notable people towards Silithus, seemingly asking for aid. Now, 11.0 takes us to Khaz-Algar and what lays below, while 12.0 sees Void attempt to claim the Sunwell, and 13.0 takes us to Northrend, where we straight up will see the Titans again. That is where things get spicy,
Yes.
I think. Matson told us that there's some sort of conspiracy, something going on with the Titans that we're going to learn. Now, remember, the Titans have like never overtly been our super good guy friends. We just kind of thought that. They were kind of like the gods that loomed large over the setting. You know, we went into their ruins and stuff. But obviously, if you were playing in Wrath of the Lich King as I did, you'll remember when Algalon tried to reboot the planet and kill all of us.
Yeah, he's
right?
the origination,
That's the sort of shit
re-origination
we've
chamber.
always known the Titans are capable of doing, really, without a second thought. So all these people are like, I can't believe the Titans are evil now. Look at things back in Wrath of the Lich King. You know, if you've played as long as I have, you can obviously see those threads exist in the game.
Yeah.
So clearly then, there's Azeroth, who we think is a Titan, and who is our world. What's happened here, I think, is she has reached out to her champions, the likes of Thrall and Anduin. By the end of the saga, I believe we will be defending Azeroth from those who wish to use her as a pawn, either to destroy the Titans.
Defending or freeing? I think we're going to be freeing Azeroth. We're going to realize that she needs to be freed. This could all lead to like a remaking of the entire world. WoW 2. I mean, I'm speculating pretty far now, but I'm just saying Azeroth is going to be freed. That's what I believe the plan is, and we're going to help do it.
What Iridikron once, and I think when Metzen talks about this conspiracy,
She could recreate the world and give us that WoW
major
2.
words with
Yeah.
the Titans. See, a major plot point of Dragonflight is the Primal Dragons being pissed that Alex Straza allowed the Titan Keepers to infuse the dragon eggs with Order magic. You know, in places like the Halls of Infusion. Now, Chris Metzen said, hey, you know all those Titan facilities everywhere? We'll have a think about those. Okay, take a look at Azeroth. Take a look at those colors. Who's to say they're natural? Has Azeroth
It's not. That's not Azeroth. It's not Azeroth. That's his mistake that he's making. That's not Azeroth.
being infused with Order magic? Because we do actually see that happen. We literally know that Azeroth's world soul has been nurtured and influenced by Titan technology. Obviously,
imprisoned.
right, the Titans want her to wake up in a certain way. All that we previously knew, right, is Amanthul walks up to a planet, goes, hello there, mate, one of my fellow Titans. Up you get, and then their Titan's born. Obviously,
Right.
there's a process to that. Clearly, then, that process is what's been happening on Azeroth. And I think that raises big questions about what she truly is. And ultimately, right, I think one of the core plot lines, through lines of Azeroth has been, we're the champions of this world. Screw all you big highfalutin dickheads. This is
Yeah.
our world. We will defend it. I think the way that that is going to play out here is that, Azeroth will probably wake up in some way by the end of this saga, but she will be what she naturally always would have been, rather than something that is just
Yeah,
at
you
the
know how
whim of some extent.
You know how I'm saying that, what's it called? It's a prison? That's not Azeroth in the image?
Power.
That power will be your prison.
Wait for it.
This world is a prison.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God. It's like she was trying to tell us. It's like she was trying to tell us something.
Force. Certainly one thing we should all remember is the Il'gynoth line. The King of
Just
Diamonds
say it.
has been made a pawn. What does that mean, right? Because that came from the perspective of Il'gynoth. And I'm probably thinking, yeah, the King of Diamonds was made a pawn of the Titans. Yes, he was doing all this stuff to help Azeroth, but ultimately what was he doing? He was working with all the big Titan machinery that is doing whatever the Titans wanted to do to Azeroth. In a way, then, Magni's a pawn, just not in the way that we initially thought, which, of course, is how all these prophecies actually do end up working.
Yeah, sure, that's true.
What do I think will happen? Personally, I think that whenever we wake him up in patch 10.2, Tyr will give us a bit of a lore dump. We'll learn suspicious things related to the war within, especially with the Earthen and the Arathi humans. And, of course, Xal'atath, who I think will be positioned as a villain, but I suspect almost certainly will survive this expansion, probably turn to our side. I think WoW is just showing more sides to the Void now. I think that, well, I think she's a bit of a free agent, right? Less of an ideologue. 12-0 will probably have us.
I personally don't think we're going to be on the side of the Void necessarily or the side of the Titans. We're going to be on the side of Azeroth. And she's going to be somewhere in between. You know, it's like that whole... the Chosen One, you know, balance between good and evil, balance between the light and the dark. It's a very Star Wars-esque story. I think that's where we're going to be, is right in the middle with Azeroth, beating the shit out of both sides.
Deal with her and Ashara, and by the time of 13.0, Iridikron's plan will be working, because remember, in the Dawn of the Infinite Dungeon, what Iridikron says, he wants to force the Titans
the Titans out so he can beat them
up. He wants to completely beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
That likely means that Iridikron will be a multi-expansion, big, proper villain, not just a, here's a dude, kill the dude, next expansion, it's another dude, kill the dude. That is exactly what WoW needs. Previous things that worked really well include Gul'dan, who was built up across like 2 expansions. If we can get that, but stronger with the Iridikron, I think that'll be really strong.
Yeah,
I love his vocal
fine.
performance. I love his kind of like appearance. He's just written to be really hardcore. And if he's actually given the time to breathe, that will work for WoW. Okay, some other things then. I think we'll probably call BS on some Odin-related stuff. Odin and Tyr may throw down, and along with all that, Sargeras and Illidan will likely also return in WoW's 13th,
Sargeras and Illidan are coming back.
Version.
Definitely
what is WoW's
back.
next saga? I know I'm literally speculating for the 13th expansion, version 14 of WoW, but here's what I think. I think Medivh will come. I think Medivh will lead us into the next saga, just as he did with Warcraft 3. I did a video on Medivh a while ago on the channel.
We are getting little Medivh transmog things, so that's possible. I think with staff right now is available on the trading post, and eventually we are going to get the entire outfit.
Probably enjoys. That is it for me, though.
Maybe.
Okay, thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you especially to our members on bellular.ghost.io. Quite shortly, I will be gathering and answering your questions at the end of videos. You can leave them for me on the Members Lounge Discord that you've all got access to if you are members. That is where you will get early content, where you will get bonus content, written articles, guides. The boys, the team are going hard.
The boys.
So that's what's
are
up.
Getting hard.
All right.
Huh?
Awesome. I'm pretty excited to do a lot of lore content in the future. Hope you're having a good time too. See you next time.
All right. Nice. Besides the fact that Bellular admitted to paralysis, sleep, and seeing demons, this was a great video. Great video. I think, you know, he hasn't quite caught on to some of the lore that I've caught on to. He's still thinking that Azeroth is that ball in the cinematic. She's not. But great video from Bellular. And I love this deep dive stuff. Great stuff.